South Park has a long history of Christmas specials. Matt and Trey getting into the Christmas spirit has created some of their most iconic moments and characters.
Wait, Carrick? Is that you?
Yeah. You want me to prove it with my squeaky chair? Kidding. It's Steve, by the way, and I'm a real person.
Wait, so you are a real person? You're not an AI?
Yeah, just a narrator. Nothing more and nothing less. They got me on Fiverr for a monotone voiceover for that Easy-ish channel. Then they asked me to do Sarek. I mean, I've honestly never really been big into South Park, and I think I mentioned that when they first asked me. I mean, I know the characters and some of the more popular episodes, but nothing really beyond like a real surface level knowledge of it. Once the videos you made came out, things went pretty wild over there. They wanted me to do a face reveal and kinda own the channel, but I definitely wasn't gonna do that. I mean, this whole time, like, I kinda kept myself from watching and reading the comments on Sarek, because at the end of the day, it wasn't my channel. In my eyes, I was just a contractor. I would essentially do everything with a cold read, never pre-read it, and if they needed me to correct anything, I would. But 9 times out of 10, there were no corrections from what they told me. I would be losing a lot of money by needlessly trying to get a perfect take over and over and over. So my approach was really just read it through. If they want me to change anything, I'll do it.
Oh, damn. My bad, dude. I always just assumed you were an AI. Like, seriously, I'm really sorry about that.
You know, Blooms, I really appreciate the apology, but seriously, I want your community to know that you absolutely apologized within the first interaction between us. Obviously, after verifying who I was. But the whole situation was just really weird. I mean, I'm responding to a video for a channel I work for that I don't really have a say in. And for the viewers, I actually did reach out to Blooms after the first episode via his Discord server. And then I left the server, and I didn't know Discord would block messages if you weren't mutuals or friends, so we just never got in touch. Then with the second video, I joined and I stayed in the server, and I'm still in there.
Yeah, I actually responded to the first message that he sent me, but my message wouldn't go through, and I didn't really understand why, so I just assumed that he deleted his account or something, and I assumed that he was someone trying to troll me and not actually the real narrator, and so I just forgot about it. But then after the second video when he messaged me, I actually was able to respond to him, and he gave me proof of everything I asked, so that's how we got here.
But the second video was pretty much the end of it all. While talking to Blooms, the Sarek Discord was completely deleted from me. All the owners changed their names, their profile pictures on Discord and everything. And they told me everything was being abandoned. The Google Drive was all deleted. The Monday.com I got revoked access to. And then they also told me that I should talk to Blooms to clear up my name. And then they apologized for how it all went down. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the owners just kind of dipped out on you guys. And unfortunately, they're just going to move on to one of their countless other channels, and this really isn't going to be that big of a deal for them. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'm really glad we got to clear all that up.
Yeah, man, absolutely. This cameo is going to be about Tree Fitty, by the way. Joking aside, I really appreciate everything, Blooms. You've been nothing but kind to me, same as your community. And I think I've read about every comment in the last video like 2 to 3 times. All that being said, my socials should be posted somewhere at this point. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, feel free. And I'll probably also keep creeping in the Discord too. Bye, guys.
Huh, nice guy. So Steven is actually a super talented voice actor. If you need one for anything, I highly recommend you check out his services. I can't thank him enough for being so cool and helping me put all of this to rest so we can finally move past all of this. So let's go to the video. South Park has a long history of Christmas specials. Matt and Trey getting into the Christmas spirit has created some of their most iconic moments and characters in the whole show, like one of the most popular side characters in the show, Mr. Hanky. Christmas in South Park is always great. For whatever reason, Matt and Trey seem to always create some of their funniest shows around the holidays. Whether they're saving Santa when his sled goes down in Baghdad, traveling through Canada to rescue Ike, or spending the holidays with Charles Manson, the boys never fail to make Christmas entertaining. I've always wondered why Matt and Trey seem to consistently make great Christmas episodes. Like, it always seems like they go the extra mile for these episodes. But after thinking about it, I realized that South Park was literally built off of Christmas. Matt and Trey's first animations were Jesus vs. Frosty and The Spirit of Christmas. And these would be the reason that they would even get picked up by Comedy Central to make South Park after it spread around Hollywood as a Christmas card on VHS tapes. So basically, South Park itself started as a Christmas special, so it's no wonder why they love making them so much. But out of their many Christmas episodes, for me there has always been one that stood out above the rest. Woodland Critter Christmas. Now, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it first. Watching this episode for the first time without having it spoiled was one of my favorite moments watching South Park, and I'm going to be spoiling it from here on out. So seriously, I highly recommend you go watch it first. But this episode just really embodies the South Park spirit. It is incredibly dark. Many would consider it incredibly offensive, arguably the most offensive episode in the entire show, and it's so absurd that it's impossible to predict where the episode is going. We're talking animal murder, Satan worshippers, the coming of the Antichrist, abortions, and AIDS. And because of all of that, this is arguably the funniest episode they've ever made. It's easily my favorite holiday special in South Park, and it was my third favorite episode of the entire show back when I made my ranking video. And to this day, it holds that spot strong. This is the only episode that I make sure I watch every single Christmas, and every year I love it more and more. There is just so much to love about this episode, and the story behind how Matt and Trey made it happen makes me love it even more. So this video isn't going to be any kind of deep analysis or anything like that. I just really love this episode, and I want to talk about why I love it so much. So, with the intro out of the way, let's get into it. South Park's most offensive episode is a Christmas special. The episode premiered in 2004 as the 14th and final episode of Season 8, quite possibly the perfect way to cap off what is undoubtedly my favorite season of South Park. From the opening seconds of this episode, it's immediately clear that this is not your typical South Park episode. There's a narrator, Trey Parker, who discusses the festivities taking place in South Park as everyone prepares for Christmas. It's very reminiscent of some indistinct Christmas special that you watch with your parents every year, with the sing-songy cadence and the fact that every line has to rhyme at the end.
People stood in long lines, sometimes waiting hours or more, because Christmas needs to be bought in a store.
For me specifically, I think of the original Grinch, but this narration could apply to any number of Christmas specials. The narrator discusses how a group of critters are preparing for their Christmas out in the woods, mentioning how interesting their names are.
There was Squirrely the squirrel, Rabbity the rabbit, Beavery the beaver, and Barry the bear, Porcupiney the porcupine, Skunky the skunk, Foxy the fox, and Deary the deer. Woodpeckery the woodpecker, Mousy the mouse, and Chickadee the chickadee.
This is such a stupid joke that just goes on so much longer than I expected it to, but for me, the full commitment to doing every single creature's name is why this joke lands. The animals ask Stan for help since their Christmas tree is missing a star. Stan isn't exactly super eager to help them, but he decides to help anyways.
And so, using some paper and working with glee, the boy in the red poofball hat made a star for the tree.
The critters are so thankful for Stan's help, they offer him a proposition, but once again, he seems pretty disinterested.
How would you like to sing and dance with us for a while?
The boy in the red poofball hat smiled and said,
No thanks, I'm gonna go home.
Later that night, he wakes up in his room to something he didn't expect.
his friends were all there! What a wonderful surprise! The little boy smiled with joy in his eyes.
What time is it?
One of my favorite aspects of this episode is how Stan is essentially trapped in a Christmas special that he clearly has no interest in participating in. This is actually a trope South Park used to do all the time back in the day, where the boys are forced into a plot straight out of a movie, but they're totally not interested in it whatsoever. For example, the episodes Towley and Aspen both use this trope very well. I have always loved when they use this trope, and this episode is probably their best execution of it to date.
Of course I'll build you a manger, the little boy cried, and he winked at his critter friends and leapt to their side.
So the critters are asking Stan to help them build a manger since Porcupine is pregnant, but this isn't any normal pregnancy. According to the critters, she's a virgin and her conception was immaculate, meaning she's giving birth to their Lord and Savior, but they don't have a manger, so they need Stan to build one. Now this is already a very bizarre way to set up a Christmas special, but trust me, if you think this is weird, I want you to tell me how you feel by the end of the episode. So, out of the kindness of his heart, Stan helps them build the manger, but as Stan goes to leave, a mountain lion wanders into the clearing. Stan shoos away the mountain lion, and the critters tell him how they actually give birth to their savior every year, but the mountain lion always eats the newborn. They're all very sad, but then they remember they have Stan to help them. We then cut to Stan begrudgingly climbing up the mountain while the narrator discusses the situation.
For the critters to be saved, someone had to stop that nasty old cat,
God damn it, this is f***ing ridiculous.
said the little boy in the red poofball hat.
So Stan is able to lure out the mountain lion and gets it to jump off a cliff, killing it. But just as Stan is about to head back down, he notices something incredibly tragic.
Mommy? Mommy! Wake up, Mommy, wake up! Man boy, why? Why did you kill her mommy? Why?
The critters, they're... Birth of the Savior?
The tiny cubs all gathered together and cried, all alone in the world because their mother had died.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the episode. I love how they do everything they can to make Stan feel like a terrible person, making the Cubs so adorable and even giving them the ability to speak for no apparent reason other than to ask him why he killed their mom. It's so ridiculous and over the top. I love it so much. So Stan returns to the critters, clearly feeling terrible about what he's done, but at least he can feel a little bit of relief knowing that killing the mountain lion protects these friendly woodland critters.
Now our critter Christmas can finally happen! Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
Oh.
Lady Porcupine can give birth to the Antichrist! Yay!
But I thought you meant the Son of God.
Well, think about it. You really think God would have sex with a porcupine? This is cause for celebration. Let's sacrifice Rabbit and eat his flesh! Yay, sacrifice me to the devil!
Oh no.
Blood orgy! Yay! Blood orgy! Blood orgy! Yay!
Yeah, so it turns out those woodland critters are actually Satan worshippers, and Stan just helped them in their quest to bring the Antichrist into the world. I absolutely love this twist. It's one of those things where I expected that something was up with the critters, but I didn't expect it to be this overtly evil, and the sudden realization from Stan of what he's done is just the icing on the cake. So a funny story about the behind the scenes of this episode, in the DVD commentary, Matt and Trey talk about how this was the last thing they had to make in the year, and that they did this entire season while simultaneously creating and finishing their movie, Team America, at the same time. So this was it. By finishing this episode, they had successfully made it through their hell year, as they called it. All they had to do was finish this episode. But when they sat down to write for it, they had absolutely no ideas. So, 2 days go by and they still have absolutely nothing. Now, if you know how South Park is made, you may see why that's a problem. Every episode is started and finished in the span of 6 days. So that means that those 2 wasted days essentially cut their time to finish this episode in half. At the end of the first day, they knew it was going to be something about Christmas critters parodying those old stop-motion specials, but that was it. By the end of the second day, they had come up with the idea of evil critters, specifically the whole blood orgy thing, which would be parodying a scene from the sci-fi movie Event Horizon. But there was still no actual plot. It made no sense at all, and there was nothing to tie everything together. They were 4 days away from the episode going live on Comedy Central, and they had essentially nothing to show for it. But when they went home that night, everything would click into place for Trey, and the episode would be saved. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So we then see the critters preparing for the birth of their savior, the other creatures mourning the mountain lion, and most importantly, the narrator reminding Stan of how this is all his fault.
Now that he'd killed the noble Lion Queen, there was nobody to stop the apocalypse, it seemed.
Stan is trying his absolute hardest to avoid the problems he accidentally caused, but the narrator isn't so keen on letting him do that.
He thought he could hide from his problems. Not true! He knew in his heart the thing he had to do.
Leave me alone!
He knew that only by going to the forest could he—
All right! God!
Meanwhile, the critters discuss how they need a heathenistic, non-baptized person to be a host body for the Antichrist, and they ask Stan if he can help find them one. Of course, Stan refuses, and he attempts to take down the manger to put a stop to all of this.
But gee whiz, Stan, if you tried to stop us, we'd have to use our evil satanic powers on you.
The critters keep their promise and show Stan just how powerful they truly are. They also remind Stan of the fact that he killed the only thing that could possibly put a stop to the birth, which makes him really mad. That is, until the narrator reminds him of something.
When he remembered there were 3 mountain lion cubs still alive on the hill!
Oh, yeah.
Again, I just love how they incorporate the narrator into the story, with Stan originally arguing with it and trying to avoid following its instructions, but now that he's stuck, he actually listens to the voice for help in order to progress the story. It's super meta and it's done so well. I honestly think it might be the best part of the episode. So Stan goes to see the Cubs, who constantly remind him about how he murdered their mother. Side note, I love how they got actual children to do the voices of the Cubs. It makes it all the more messed up and hilarious.
We still have our baby teeth. And our baby claws. And a dead mom.
The Cubs don't really know how they could help considering they're just kids, but one of them mentions another way that they could kill the baby. An abortion.
Where can they learn that? The boy said with a frown. I know, the abortion clinic just outside of town.
What?
Stan is so over all of this at this point, and once again he tries to ignore the narrator's story, but the narrator proves that he has a bit more control over the story than we previously thought.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Oh, God damn it!
The doctor at the abortion clinic is more than happy to teach the Cubs, and we get a montage of the Cubs learning how to perform abortions, set to an original song.
It's once a year, it's Christmas time, and it happens once a year. It's once once a year at Christmas time.
This is one of my favorite South Park Christmas songs. I can't believe I forgot it in the video ranking every song because it's just so great. Constantly repeating how Christmas time is once a year and it's the only time of year we hear about how it comes once a year. It's just so perfect.
When we hear about how Christmas only comes once a year.
This better have a point, dude. This really better have a point.
Meanwhile, the critters are going for a walk and they just so happen to stumble upon exactly what they were looking for.
But does that mean you aren't baptized?
No, I'm Jewish.
Yay! Yay!
You're perfect, just perfect.
Huh?
Yay!
The narrator mentions the new star hanging in the sky as Stan and the Cubs approach, ready to give an abortion. But as they approach, Stan quickly comes to a realization. The Antichrist had already been born. They were too late. He also has a little exchange with Kyle, who is currently tied to an altar and ready to be used as the host body. But just when all hope seems lost, they hear a jingle coming from the sky. Could it really be?
Hey, look! It's Santa Claus! Yay! Let's eat his flesh!
So yes, as if this episode wasn't weird enough already, we get Santa Claus riding in to help save the day. Santa's not exactly happy about the coming of the Antichrist, but he reveals to Stan that he has a little bit of knowledge on woodland critters and how to put a stop to them.
There's only one way to stop devil-worshipping critters.
So Santa very easily murders all of the woodland critters with a shotgun, and since the Antichrist has no host body, it will not be able to survive and the day is saved. That is until Kyle suddenly has a massive change of heart and acts completely out of character by consuming the Antichrist anyways so that the Jews can control Christmas. Now, when I watched this the first time, at this point I was very much questioning what the hell is going on. None of this made any sense at all. Santa just murdered a bunch of satanic woodland critters who are trying to bring the Antichrist to life, and Kyle out of nowhere decides he wants to be the Antichrist. It just makes no sense. And that was precisely the problem Matt and Trey had when writing this episode. They didn't know where to go with it. They knew none of this made sense. But as I mentioned, after the second day, Trey came to a realization of how all of this could be tied together, and it makes perfect sense.
Oh, stop it, Cartman! Just stop it! That's enough! You are reading another sentence of your stupid story!
I don't believe anyone interrupted you when you read your Christmas story, Loudcat.
This is such a perfect twist. Of course, this is Cartman's idea of a wholesome Christmas story. Satanic Christmas critters bringing about the Antichrist, Santa blowing their heads off with a shotgun, and Kyle allowing it to happen so the Jews could have control of Christmas. I mean, that is exactly what you would expect from a story written by Cartman. It is just so well done. This is really the moment that kind of brings the whole episode together. Everything leading up to this point makes perfect sense. I think this still would have been a great episode without this twist, but with it, it truly elevates it to one of the best in the whole show. Trey talks about how once he came up with the idea of this all being Cartman's story, he immediately wrote the entire script right then because everything just clicked. And because of this, the entire episode ended up being created in less than 4 days. Like, it was already incredible enough that they made every episode in 6 days, but doing it in 4 days is absolutely insane. And not only is it insane that they even got it done at all, but the fact that it turned out to be one of their best episodes ever is just mind-blowing to me, and it makes this episode even better. So Kyle is completely over this story. To him, it's obvious it was just written for Cartman to rip on him for being Jewish, but the rest of the class is dying to know how the story ends. Kyle doesn't understand why, but after everyone begs him enough, he finally relents and lets Cartman finish the story.
Oh dear, my best friend is possessed. How about that? Said the little boy in the red poof ball hat.
Kyle immediately regrets his decision to consume the Antichrist, but unfortunately for him, the only way they can stop it at this point is by Santa murdering him with the shotgun. But Stan comes to a realization, and he finally gets into the Christmas spirit that the narrator was looking for.
The lion cubs.
The little boy quickly begun.
I took them to see how abortions are done.
What?
Now, Cubs, do like they showed you. Hurry up fast. Get the Antichrist out of my friend Kyle's ass.
You didn't think those Cubs learned how to do abortions just for them to not give an abortion. Obviously, they were going to find a way to make sure that that happened. So the Cubs put all of their training to use and give Kyle an abortion. The Antichrist is removed and Santa crushes it with a giant mallet. And since Stan saved the day, Santa's willing to give him one wish of whatever he wants, and he puts it to good use.
Oh my, what happened?
Mommy?
And just like that, this horrible story written by Cartman ends on a very happy note, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Except for Kyle, who died of AIDS 2 weeks later.
God damn it, Cartman!
Christmas time is once a year.
I think I made it pretty obvious why I love this episode so much. It's just so perfect. It is truly such a South Park episode. And I know that kind of sounds like it doesn't mean anything, but what I mean is this is just the most South Park of South Park episodes. The way that everything is set up in this episode makes each reveal that much better. The way that you just expect this episode to be Stan reluctantly helping these critters the entire time, but then the twist reveal that the critters are actually the evil ones and the mountain lion was the good guy. It is just so compelling and it makes for an incredible story. And of course, the reveal that Cartman wrote this entire story is just the icing on the cake. It was the perfect way to tie up all the loose ends in the story, and it really solidified this episode as being one of the best in the whole show. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about it. I know this wasn't any kind of deep analysis or anything. This is a lot shorter than my normal videos. I just wanted to make a short, quick video before the end of the year because I really wanted to talk about this episode, and I feel like you guys deserve some updates about the whole Carrick Artman thing. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas or whatever you celebrate, and I will see you in the new year. Later.
Christmas time is once a year. Every critter holds it dear. Every animal, big or small. Christmas means so much to us all. It's once a year, it's Christmas time. And it happens once a year.